Hey everyone, this is Gary Kay, and I've got a very special guest today. I'm honored to be joined with Dave Labuskes. Basically runs our industry. He is the CEO of AVIXA. Dave, how are you?
Gary, I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing great. I first off want to thank you for being with me today. A lot of people have been wondering what's going on with InfoComm, and everyone wants to have the show in June, but you're announcing today and have just announced that we're moving the show to October. Talk about that for just a second.
Yeah, I'm really excited to be able to make that announcement. The industry that I do not run, but at times represent, has certainly been anxious to get back together face to face. Our industry is, so dependent upon sight and sound, and it's very difficult to experience the energy and excitement of a show like InfoComm across an internet platform. So it became an option for us a few weeks ago in conversations with Orange County Convention Center, and we did some exploration to validate what our initial impression was, which is that absolutely everybody that we pulled and talked to is very excited about getting together, and is even more excited about getting together at the end of October than in the middle of June. And so we took advantage of the opportunity and are relocating our little party to the end of October.
But still in Orlando, obviously. And it's the 23rd through the 29th, with the show dates, the 27th, 28th, 29th. Did I have that right?
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. So what are you going to dress up for as Halloween on the last day?
Hey, I think that's actually kind of a cool little thing that we've never been able to do at any event that I know of, is celebrate Halloween or consider celebrating Halloween. But really, let's get to a little bit of seriousness. Today, the Biden administration announced that they expect to have over 200 million people vaccinated by the end of August in the United States. Germany has announced that by the middle of September, they'll have more than half their population vaccinated. Australia says by July, they'll have the majority of their population vaccinated. I think that an October event is a guaranteed thing. I know that you're not going to say guarantee simply because, there's all these other factors, but there's two factors I think working on our favor. Number one, I haven't talked to anyone who doesn't want to get back to normalcy and want to see each other. The piece we're missing is the networking and the communications and the friendships and things like that. But number two, everything seems to be on our side now. We finally have the vaccine. We finally have people taking the vaccine. We finally have the processes in place to make this happen. I think October is a brilliant move, by the way. What do you think?
I think I don't even need to be on this event. I think you can take care of it from here, Gary. Yeah, I think it was one lesson I think all of us have taken from the past year is there's no such thing as a guarantee. And that we absolutely all are imperfect in forecasting what's going to happen tomorrow. But given that as a given, it's hard to see anything that would suggest that this isn't a positive move, right? There were a lot of negatives in that statement. So let me unpack it for a second. I mean, as you mentioned, the environment of distribution of vaccine, the pace of distribution of that vaccine, all of that has become far, far more positive, even in the last week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. There's no reason rationally to presume that that would change. So given that, once the option was available to us, we took it, and I think I like your atmosphere. I like your attitude about it being a guarantee.
I really think it is. I think that maybe it won't be as big as we all hope it'll be, but I think that there's going to be a giant chunk of people that are going to be ready to get down there. Plus, there's no substitute for seeing products in person. There's no substitutes for shaking hands. Although I don't know that we'll be shaking hands the old-fashioned way. I think we'll be doing a little bit more fist bumps and elbow bumps for a while. And as you know, I've talked about this before, I'm already kind of a germaphobe. So I actually like carrying around hand sanitizer and doing this all the time. But, as you know, I took the vaccine back in September. I was in the Pfizer trials. And I found out 3 weeks ago that I actually got the vaccine. I wasn't one of the placebo people. I can tell you from personal experience, feel comfortable taking this vaccine. I know that this is just my own personal experience, and I'm sure you've read the horror stories online or by press. But remember, there's only a few of those horror stories, and they found them rather than the general population, which is not having any issues with the vaccine. And I'm hopeful that a great majority of us will do that. I do have a question, however, Dave, with regard to ISC, because when I heard that you were going to do this, one thing that excited me was I was concerned because Gary Kay wants to go to both ISE and InfoComm, and the 2 dates where you had them before, it would have been impossible because I would have had to, based on the current regulations, I would have had to in June isolate myself for 14 days after coming back from ISE. So I would only been able to go to ISE. I'd already figured it out. Go to ISE one day and then come back so I could be to InfoComm. Separating them solves that problem. But now you have ISE still sitting in June. How do you think, do you think that show will get moved? Do you think they're looking at something like that? Or do you think that it's okay in June, considering it's more of a regional show?
Yeah, I absolutely understand the question, Gary. The show is going to take place in June, or it's not going to take place. There's the logic of moving that show, or the availability or logistics of moving that show are just not, they're just not there. So I'm excited about the fact that it relieves some of that conflict between the calendar. The same math that you did, many of our exhibitors have done, and they've been working through, and we've been supporting them with how do you exhibit in both the ISE show and the InfoComm show with both of them in June. By separating them with 4 months, it gives us an opportunity for both shows to be very successful. I mean, you have to look at this from both it really doesn't matter how much we want to be together, right? All of us are first evaluating, is it safe to be together? And the current trending in all the information we have that you just described and that I just described says it's going to be far safer in June than it is today, and it's going to be safer in October than it is in June. So yeah, I'm excited about ISE. I'm excited about getting together, and I'm excited about being able to present a trade show that is safe and valuable and contributes to, I think kickstart might be too strong of a word. That's too full of hubris. I don't want to suggest that the industry start or stop is based on a trade show, but you can have a conversation with 100 people at either of those shows, and at least 10 of them, if not 20 or 30 or 40 of them, are going to tell you a story about how they found a new job during that show, how they learned about a new opportunity, how they identified a possible acquisition or acquirer. There's real commerce that takes place at these shows, and that's a key part of the responsibility we have in delivering those shows. It's part of what caused us to have the conversations from the outset with Orange County Convention Center, and looking to see, are there alternative dates? Are there ways for us to shift this show back so that we can further invest in its success?
Yeah, and I would add on there education. I think my favorite thing at InfoComm has always been the educational program. I think the acquisitions, the products, the people are great, but the educational program is second to none. Nobody does education like InfoComm does, or AVIXA does at InfoComm. So I think that's another factor there. I am curious, what about, I guess, the rules with regard to social distancing and entrances and exits to booths and things like that will all be in flux. Like, those things haven't been determined because it's all going to be based on the comfort factor with the what people feel comfortable with, but also the laws in the locale that it is in Orlando, right? So you really can't answer those questions just yet, right?
Yeah, both shows have extensive information on their web pages for the exhibitors and for the attendees. The positive news about vaccine distribution is also been packaged with the fact that there will continue to need to be the need for mitigation. And so I just, again, I'm not a public health official. I think it would be naive of us to presume that in June or October, we're going to be completely past the pandemic and the restrictions and the protections that we need to implement for everybody's health. Yeah. So is it going to be different? Absolutely. But You know, you mentioned education, and I shouldn't let you talk about education without once again giving you credit for being one of the foundational people for some of the education that AVIXA is able to deliver from 100 years ago when you were chairing the PETSI committee. But you know what's magical about one of the things we've learned, right, or at least I've observed, and I think we've all learned, is you can have a fantastic asynchronous event where I share information with you, and we can call that education, right? But you know it as well as anybody because of your role at UNC that education isn't just the professor speaking to the
Correct.
class; it's the students speaking to each other,
You're
and
100% correct.
that's
The
what you get.
collaboration is gone. The
And that's what you
collaboration
get
is
at the
gone in
show.
virtual events.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah.
you get
I
at the
mean,
show.
yeah, and you know, I can agree with you 100%. We've probably done more virtual events than any organization in our industry, and I can tell you that the collaboration parts and the intricacies of the communication between the people just is not there, and we need to get back. I would say that although you don't want to say kickstart, I would say that this is a kickstart because I think that it'll be a bridge. InfoComm will be a bridge to, okay, now things are starting to get more normal again. Whether it's a mental bridge or a physical bridge, it will be a bridge to the industry. And I know for a fact there's going to be people that won't go to the show just simply because they are nervous about the effect on their family. They have older parents that live at home, or they just don't want to take the chance. But I think that if we think about this logically, we look at the research from Moderna and Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson and these vaccines, you look at what they went through to produce these vaccines. And if you really get educated on the vaccines, you won't be as afraid of taking these of any other vaccine because it is not like any other vaccine. I don't want to pretend to be a medical expert or tell you that I know everything, but I can tell you that I've been educated as much as anyone on this that is not affiliated with a hospital, I can tell you. And this is a DNA match of the virus. You're not getting the actual virus. So there's no way to get COVID from it. Sure, there are people that are allergic to some of the elements in the vaccine itself, but that's a very, very small portion of the population. They're estimating, less than 1/3 of 1%. But the positive outweighs the negative. We have kids who I'm teaching at UNC that are accidentally infecting their parents and grandparents when they go back home. I've just learned of another one yesterday from one of my students. So there's going to be factors like that. But the majority of us will have been vaccinated. The majority of us will be in a situation where we are comfortable traveling. So there will be people that show up at this show. Maybe it won't be 40 or 50,000, but maybe it'll be 20 or 25,000. I'm perfectly fine with that because I believe this is a bridge. Dave, you say you don't run the industry, but you are a beacon for the industry, you yourself, but also the AVIXA itself. What I want to ask, what things will we see at InfoComm for sure that we're going to have? Because when it was in June, I know that we were saying, well, no parties, no reception, no opening reception, potentially no special events. Can we see some of those things come back since you're moving it to October?
I hope so. I think we need to watch through that. I mean, one of the things we've learned is that we have to be agile in our planning, right? All of us have had to examine assumptions and make new decisions. I think you'll see education. We know that. You'll see enormous opportunities to learn and share. I am personally, and AVIXA is organizationally committed to making sure that you see that with more diverse participants on the stage, sharing the magic and the tapestry of our industry and reinforcing the welcoming environment we have for diverse voices. You'll see exhibitors presenting products and innovations that they've been anxious to put in front of you face to face. I think you'll see meetings, you'll see social gatherings. Will they be different? Of course they will. But fundamentally, we're going to deliver a safe event that delivers for the industry. You're talking a lot about the vaccine, and I actually just sent an email to all of my employees yesterday encouraging them to get the vaccine as soon as it's available to them. And I think this is a time for the phrase, "we're all in this together," to be more than a phrase, and to recognize, just as wearing a mask keeps not only me safe, but you safe, getting a vaccine contributes to the safety of the entire globe. The other word that I have been reflecting on, or maybe pair of words, is responsibility and irresponsibility, right? And what goes into making a decision like this about a trade show. And I think we're all quick to make statements about the tragedy of the pandemic and the people that have lost their job and the people that haven't worked in months and months, and particularly in the live event segment of our industry. Yeah. We have a responsibility as AVIXA and InfoComm, the show, to present this platform to those who want to take advantage of it, right? Not everybody in the world has attended this trade show ever, let alone this year. And I certainly respect their decision to not come to Orlando in October. But I also feel a deep sense of responsibility to those who want to come, to those who need to come, whether it's for their business purposes or their own career purposes, and to deliver that event, or deliver this event, in a safe fashion. This is, not only does it contribute to the growth of the industry, but it actually puts people back to work, right? So yeah. Whether or not we have massive parties with 20,000 people at them, or we have dinners at a restaurant, there will be people that are working because we've made a commitment to deliver a safe event for our industry. And those are the types of responsibilities that we take very seriously as an organization.
Yeah, and I agree with you 100%. I echo everything that you say. I've also encouraged my team to get vaccinated. I certainly am not going to shame anyone who doesn't, just simply because I know that's a personal decision. But I think the great majority of people will. And, you know, as I said, the Biden administration said this morning that they'll have over 200 million people vaccinated by the end of August. You know, the UK is already in the process of doing it. They're going to be done about the same time with their population. It's all good news. And I'm excited to see InfoComm. I feel way more confident about this. Now, I will tell you, I still want ISE to happen. I still plan on going over to Europe. I still plan on being in Barcelona and covering that show. I've already talked to our team internally how we would go about doing it to make sure we get enough people there. We've had a few people with COVID that have stepped up saying, hey, I'll go because I've already had COVID. And so we plan on going to ISE 2021 as well in June in Barcelona. So don't forget about that show. But of course, the new dates for InfoComm are the 27th to the 29th of October, but there's a lot of other events in and around InfoComm, including education, which starts on the 23rd of October in the Orlando Convention Center. They're already having events in Orlando. By that time, they'll have probably 6 or 7 months worth of experience doing events. I'm pretty sure it's going to be really well. It'll be like walking into a hospital. You'll feel very comfortable about, you know, I don't mean necessarily walking into a hospital look like that. In fact, it look very different. You'll feel comfortable that you're not going to get infected by just touching something. And I think we can all do our part. We need to get back to work. I think this is great for the industry. Dave, thank you for you and your team for figuring out a way to make sure that this event happens in 2021. We need that bridge. And I also thank you for being here today.
My pleasure, Gary. Thanks for everything you do for the industry.
Well, I appreciate it. I love this industry. I'll die in this industry. I don't have anything else to do. But I want to thank everyone for watching us today. If you want to read the full press release on the official release from InfoComm, just go to ravepubs.com. From AVIXA, I should say, go to ravepubs.com. And then, of course, you want to see any of our other rants and raves, or you want to read my crystal ball, then go to ravepubs.com and you can read my predictions for 2021. Other than that, thank you very much for joining us and have a great day.